Here we're on the front of our Grand Design Solitude fifth wheel. We're going to do a tutorial or a walkthrough like you would get with a technician on the date of delivery, going through the components on here, how they operate, a few tips and tricks along the way. Now your unit may vary in component brands or type. You can find more information on these brands as well as others in our Helpful Hacks section of our Great American RV YouTube channel. Click that like, subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. You can find more helpful hacks along the way from Great American. On the front here we have, of course, our kingpin. We do have some lights on the front cap that are accessible through our control bay over there on the side. We have our 7-way plug here. That 7-way plug transmits all of our lights from our towing vehicle to our trailer, as well as a battery charge line to charge that battery up while you're traveling down the road off of the alternator of our truck. Last thing on here is your brake control wire that will feed off of that brake controller when you activate the brakes on your vehicle. It will send that signal through here to activate the brakes on our trailer. Now, speaking of brakes, we have our breakaway cable. This lanyard right here needs to be hooked to the truck itself, not the fifth wheel hitch. This is made that way if something happens to that fifth wheel hitch or kingpin, this disconnects from the vehicle. In the event that that hitch accidentally goes with it, this pin will stay with the truck. This pin will pull out of this box right here. That's our breakaway box, and it will activate the brakes on our trailer, the emergency brakes, and bring them to a stop. Now this can only happen if we have a good solid 12 volts on our unit, so that means we have a good battery on our system. Otherwise those brakes aren't going to activate and do anything. Now we always need to make sure that, once again, that 12 volt system is good and that this pin is locked into this breakaway box as well. Otherwise those emergency brakes will be active while you're traveling down the road. All right, so we're in our front compartment behind our kingpin. We'll start up top over here. We have our two Schwintek control boards for our front two slides, and we have our Lippert sensor up there for our leveling system. Down here we have our solar controller with our solar disconnect. You do have solar power up, solar panels up on the roof. That solar power will come down into this controller, convert it into charging power for your battery, your 12 volt system. That solar disconnect can stay on all the time. You can turn it off if you want to disengage the system, completely up to you. You do have a battery disconnect over here on the right in this black box right here. That is actually disconnecting your battery from your whole system. Now we want to do that when we store our unit unplugged, so we're conserving some battery power for our trailer whenever we're going back out to pick it up. Anytime we are plugged in, we want to turn that on so our converter, our charging system, it converts 110 power to 12 volt charging power, is engaged and actually charging that battery. Our solar power will be completely different from our battery disconnect. If we turn our battery disconnect off, our solar power is still engaged on here. So like I said, when you're storing your unit unplugged, you turn that battery disconnect off, you leave your solar on, it will, as long as you have sunlight, convert some charging power to your battery. You have numerous 12 volt breakers around here. Some of them are thermal. A lot of them in here are thermal. That means that once they heat up due to high amperage or an issue, they will trip and stop your system. They'll cool off, automatically reset, and your system will start working again. Some of them are resettable, like the one down here has a little button on it. You'll see it tripped out. You have to hit that button, reset it, and re-engage at 12 volts. Here we have our hydraulic system. This will operate some of your slides as well as your leveling system. We do have overrides for your hydraulics and your Schwintek slides in our helpful hacks section. There's two separate videos that go over overrides if our systems fail. One quick note I'll give you about your hydraulics is we need to keep an eye on that hydraulic level for the fluid. And when we refill it, we need to make sure our jacks are retracted, our slides are retracted, because right now our front landing gears are extended, our fill line is up here. If we were to fill it up and we retracted those jacks all the way, it's going to overfill our system. So make sure we have everything retracted whenever we go to refill that system. We are prepped for a generator right there. We have our firebox. We're also prepped with our wiring for a generator that goes to the transfer switch, so our wiring will come over here and from our generator to be able to hook that up. We're also pre-wired for our inverter system right up there. Our Romex is already ran. Our inverter would change 12 volts to 110. So if we're not plugged in, we can go ahead and operate some of our appliances off of that inverter. On the driver's side of our unit, our very first compartment right here is going to be an LP compartment. Same thing on the passenger side, you'll have an LP tank in here, and on one of the two sides, usually the driver's side, you're going to have your dual propane regulator. A dual propane regulator operates with a selector switch on there. You have two tanks. You choose which tank you want to be your primary tank. You have both of them on. If that primary tank runs dry, the indicator will let you know by turning red, and it will automatically swap over to that secondary tank so you don't lose feed to your water heater or furnace. In the event that primary tank runs dry, it'll pull from the second. We can move that selector switch over to the second one and refill that former primary tank at that point. Behind that, we have our pass-through bay. Titan leveling system right here. We'll go over information on that, as well as our control center right here. So here we are on that base camp touch screen for our Titan jacks. We can see at the bottom left corner, we have a quick shortcut to turn our lights off and on the jacks themselves. If we hit this question mark right here, we have a QR code, which can generally also be found in that LP compartment or one of the other doors. You'll see that sticker, and it's going to bring you to literature on these specific Titan jacks. It'll run you through the same stuff that I'm gonna run you through. It'll also go over information on how to override these jacks in the event that your pump fails, and how to manually retract them or extend them. So moving in, we can see our default pin, which is from the factory, 5241. And we hit the green check, and we're on it. So immediately, we're gonna go into our options to start off with. I'm gonna show you that if we go into our current level, this is gonna tell us what the level of our unit is. If we go into auto level, this is going to be our different set points. We'll go over that information here shortly. If we go to jack lights off and on, we can adjust the brightness and the timer on how long we want them to run. Turn them off and on here. We have our different modes, our manual mode, which is if we want to manually extend or retract the jacks. We click that screen again. Our front jacks are gonna run simultaneously. You can't do those individually. You'll hit extend and retract. If we wanna turn those off, click them again. We can do our rear individually, left or right, and extend or retract. Get out of that screen, go back into our options and modes. We have our arrival. Now these are the different screens that you're gonna see dependent on where you are in your camping trip. So arrival is right when you get to the campground. The system detects all your jacks are up, so it's gonna assume that you are arriving, and it'll come up with the bigger option of extending land gear, retracting landing gear, and then auto level, which are the options that you would generally use right when you arrive at the campsite. Our next mode is our auto level. It's just going to give you the different set points here of what auto levels we can go to. Now we have our factory set auto level, which is going to be our 0 point null. It's what we consider level by the factory. They take a 4-foot level, put it in the unit. Now if you find where the factory setting is off or not to your desire, you can hit this 3 dots up here at the top right, and that will bring you to be able to change that setting. We hit change, and just like our manual mode, we can select the jacks that we want to extend and retract and get a 4-foot level, put it in your unit, and you can adjust it. When you're done, you'll hit set, and it will save that factory setting. Now, every time you go to auto level from that point, that will be the setting that it goes to. Now you have your set points 1, 2, and 3. This is for options such as maybe you're storing your unit. Let's say that's what we want our set point 1 at. We can hit those 3 dots on the side and we can change it. And let's say we want to nose down our camper or nose up our camper so the water will run off of our unit. We can put these jacks whatever formation we want and kick it up within a 5-degree slant. It won't do over that. And it won't save that set point. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't save, you're probably out of that 5-degree margin. Once it's set, it'll bring you out of that screen. And now when you hit set point 1, it'll go to that nose up or nose down position, whatever you chose it to be. Now set point 2 and set point 3 can be whatever you desire, the same thing. So let's say, you know, these campers are heavy on your truck sometimes, and you have to pull up to a dump station to dump, and you're nose down, and you have a pipe that points to the back of the unit. So all that water isn't really draining out of the pipe. You can do set point 2 for your front landing gears, just lifting the camper up enough to add a little slope to it and allow that water to drain the rest of the way out of that pipe. So you can be creative and have whatever options you want set in there. Our last mode is our departure mode. This would be after you've auto leveled and everything, you're ready to go home. This is likely the screen that's going to pop up. So we would return to hitch height. Now this height is going to be the height that you were at just before you hit auto level. Generally that height is going to be where your truck disconnected from your camper. So your hitch should go back up to that hitch height, and when you press that button, it's going to hit that point. Now we can extend and retract manually to adjust that if we're a little bit off. And when we're done, we're hooked up to our truck, we know that that hitch is secure, everything is good, we can hit retract all, and all of our jacks will come up. Our next option in here is dark theme or light theme. We can go ahead and choose that option. That just changes the background of our screen. Now, like I said, every time you open this up, if you've done something different, it's going to generally have a different screen based on what the level of those jacks are. So like I said, we unlocked it here and it comes to that extend landing gear. Basically it's saying we're in arrival mode. If we went into auto level and the screen blacked out after that, we came back to it, it's probably going to have auto hitch height as that option. So whatever the screen pops up to, you have the option to go into a different one by going into options, then modes, and it's going to once again bring you to a different screen. We can run manual mode, we can run our auto level mode. No matter what, you can get to any of these screens. It's very repetitive. You just have to go through the options and get them. Otherwise, it's going to suggest what option you want next in order to run your jacks. Now, you can also hook this up to your Bluetooth on your phone. We'll show you how to do that next. So this is the tag that I mentioned earlier that you can generally find in one of your compartment doors. And if not, you can find it on the actual brains of the auto leveling system, generally found in that front storage compartment or your pass-through compartment on your unit. So what we want to do is download our LCI One Control app. We can scan this QR code right here. This will bring us to the App Store to download that app. Once we've done that, you'll have to enter a series of information, including the make, model, and year of your unit, as well as your VIN number. Once you've done that, you'll scan this QR code right here, and this will grant you access to the system. Then it's going to ask you for a password. You'll enter your password into the system, and then it'll bring you into the options to be able to control that app. Now, we do have the information on that app. It is pretty repetitive to that screen. It gives you a few more options in there. We have more information on the full video on our Titan system. All right, so for our control center, we have our coax hookups right here to the side, satellite cable, auxiliary. Depending on your unit, you may have some options over there to the right as well, and your GFCI protected 110 outlet right here. We have our quick connect right here for our blue coiled hose. We can have our water source right here with hot and cold, and then we have all of our options for where we want our water to go. So we'll start with power fill tank right here at the bottom left. So we would turn our configuration to this, and this would fill our tank system. We would go ahead and hook a water connection up to here from a hose bib, and that would begin filling our tank from our city inlet. Now, our onboard storage tank provides us water to where we could kick on that water pump and provide water in the event we don't have water at the campsite where we're at. In order to do that, we would go to our dry camping. We would turn our fixtures like this, kick on our water pump right here. So we have a switch here and inside that would kick on that water pump and pull it out of that fresh tank to our fixtures. Now, if you have a water connection at the campground, we're going to go to city water, which is our middle one right here. We hook our water hose up to here, just turn it on, and that'll provide water to those fixtures. No need to have the water pump on for that. Now, one thing to keep in mind with our fresh tank system is that is added extra weight to our unit. If we don't need it, don't use it, drain that water out. There's going to be a lever we're going to show you in a little while on how to drain that out, or just take whatever you need. If you use it at rest areas, so on and so forth, just kind of keep that in mind. It is extra weight. We certainly don't want to leave it in there for extended periods of time because that water does become stagnant as well. All right, if we want to winterize our unit due to extreme temperatures, we want to go ahead and go to our winterization. That's siphon fixtures via pump. So we would hook a water hose up to this, run the other end into our RV antifreeze. We would open up our low point drains, which are down here at the bottom. We'll show you in a few. Drain our water out of our system, blow it out, and then we'd hook that water hose up, kick our pump on, and that's going to suck the RV antifreeze into our pipes. We turn our fixtures on the inside and let that pass through. There's more information for that in your owner's manual as well as on HAP's Helpful Hacks. Our siphon sanitized to tank, kind of the same thing as winterization, but we're going into our tank. So we turn it to that fixture, we do a mixture of bleach and water. We hook a hose up to this, run the other end into that bleach and water, kick our water pump on, and that's going to go into our tank so we can go ahead and sanitize it. Down here, obviously, we've talked about our city water connection. We'll use that for multiple things. To the right is our black tank flush. We'll talk more about that when we get to our dump station. Just keep in mind that it's right there. As we look to the bottom of our system, we have our filtration system right here. This filter isn't installed, but that would go in there. Keep an eye on that filter when we need to change it. And then we also have our low point drains, hot and cold, right here to drain the water out for winterization. Behind our pass-through compartment, we have our Furrion tankless water heater, as well as our Furrion furnace right here at the bottom. Both of them need 12 volts to operate and gas to heat that system. We'll go over the operation of those when we get to the thermostat and the controller for the water heater on the inside. So we have our front slide out on the driver's side. That is a Schwintek slide. Our middle slide right here, this is going to be a hydraulic. So your middle slides on both sides are both hydraulics. All of your other ones are going to be Schwintek. You'll notice that by that gear mechanism right there on the side. That'll be those two boards in that front compartment, as well as one in the rear for our rear slide out there. You'll see a vent up there. That is for over your range. If we want to ventilate air out, there are some tabs on there that can keep that closed for storage, but we need to make sure it's open whenever we actually use that vent. Otherwise, it won't ventilate out. We'll notice down here on the bottom of the frame, right before that slide out, this white handle that goes to our white valve right there. That is to dump the fresh tank that we were talking about earlier. We'll notice LP line under our first slide out on the driver's side. That is to go to our range there in our slide out. They put that quick connect there. That way if the slide ever has to be pulled out, it's just an easy removal. Right after our main slide out on the driver's side, still we have our black tank flush. You do have two black tanks on this unit, so you'll have two separate flushes. We also have our 50 amp power supply right here. That is to supply power from our power pole. Now this connection needs to be plugged in here first. We put it in, turn it to the right. You're gonna have a little retainer ring on there to tighten that up, keep it from accidentally falling out. Kids running around, jumping, pulling on stuff. That'll keep it from popping out of there. We plug this in first, then we plug into our power pole because we want to reduce any opportunity for arcing when we plug it in right here. We also want to make sure our ACs are off so we don't cause any surges to that appliance. In our first compartment in the rear, we do have our powered cord reel right here for that 50 amp power line. We'll put it in there, roll that up. We're also going to have all of our valves for our gray and black tank system right here. Our port is right down here below it where we would hook up that sewer hose. Now, let's talk about our tanks. We have gray tanks and black tanks. Gray tanks is our shower water or sink water. Everything from our sinks and showers is going into our gray tanks. As long as we have that hose connection down there and our port there at the campsite, we can leave those valves open all the time, let that water run out. It's going to fill up fairly quick with showers and sinks and stuff, so you can just let it run out so you don't have to keep coming out here and dumping it. Our black tank, however, is from our toilet. That's our sewage. We need to make sure we keep that valve closed all the time until we're ready to dump. Reason being is we want to keep water in that system. If we don't, the solids that we put in that toilet are going to dry up in there, cause dry tank. We don't want that. So the process for dumping is you have your hose hooked up. Of course, we come over here, we pull our black tanks open and start draining out that system. From that point, we go ahead and hook up our black tank flush, which is just a water hose, to that fixture. We turn it on, and that's going to send water to a jet port on the other side of that tank and help flush any debris in that tank down to our valve right here and flush that system out. When we're satisfied, we disconnect our black tank flush, we close our black tank valve, we go on the inside to that toilet and we hold down the pedal and we add several gallons of fresh water to that system. We do that because we're still going to have a little bit of debris in there while we're driving. That water will help knock that stuff down off the walls. And of course, like I said, any solids that are in there, a little bit of debris won't dry up. We add our chemicals in there to help deteriorate anything that's left in there, and of course help that system from smelling bad as well. Now that's how your owner's manual is going to tell you to do it. There are other tips, pro tips on how to flush out that tank system if you want. Of course, you can find it there on the Apps Helpful Hack section of the Great American RV YouTube channel. All right, on the rear of our unit up top, we are going to be pre-wired for that Furrion backup camera system, powered by our running lights on our vehicle that we're using to tow. Turn those running lights on, that will send power to that camera system so you can see behind you while you're traveling or backing up. If you want to upgrade, it's a pretty easy install to do. Of course, we have our storage compartments all around, and then we have our tray right here that will roll out on our back cabin. Below that, we do have our receiver hitch and our 4-way plug, so we can pull a trailer behind us. We have those lights as well as our hookups for our safety chains. Last thing we have back here is our factory supplied ladder, which is very important because we need to gain access to our roof and check our sealant around all of our vents and our side rails, as well as our sealant around our sides of our unit. Anywhere there's been a window, compartment, trim, anything like that, we have sealant around it. So we need to check the sealant, roof sides, everywhere, and make sure that stuff isn't deteriorating, peeling, cracking, anything of that nature, because water can enter into that, damage our unit. Your owner's manual is definitely going to tell you every 60 to 90 days, and it's also going to tell you that it's owner maintenance. We need to make sure that we check this regularly. Even if your unit is under a cover, you need to check that every 60 to 90 days to make sure we are not allowing water into our unit. This is customer maintenance. Manufacturers aren't going to cover any deterioration on that sealant after the first 90 days, so we need to make sure we stay on top of that so our unit will last for years to come. We also want to check that rubber after we have taken trips, make sure no low-lying tree limbs poked any holes in it. We want to wash that roof at least twice a year. 2 more storage bays on our passenger side, and in this front compartment right here, we have a hookup for cable and satellite for our outdoor TV, as well as the GFCI protected outlet outside and one inside, and your lights. We're also going to have our outdoor speakers and another awning as well. On the passenger side, we are going to have that front compartment with our second LP tank in there, our pass-through bay, of course, bigger access to that than on our driver's side. We have our Lippert tire link system already set up in our unit with the monitors and sensors on the tires, so we can keep track of that tire pressure and temperature while we're traveling down the road. On this side down here at the bottom, you'll see your road vac system. That is an inboard vacuum system we can hook up. We're also going to have access to it on the inside. We have a hose kit with it, so we can go ahead and clean out our unit. You're going to have a bag in here for this system. You can go ahead and open up, change that bag out on there, and kick it off and on from here too. Over to the side of that, we have another spray port for that blue hose. And down here at the bottom, we have a quick connect LP point that we can go ahead and hook an outdoor grill or something like that, and that will pull straight from our propane tanks. Here on the slide out right after our door, you're going to notice a little hole in the J-wrap. That is for our spare tire system. We'll see that down at the bottom. We'll see that pin right there. If we would have to take that pin out, we put our crank handle in, we can drop that spare tire to use it if we need. On our entry door, we do have a handrail right here with a little pin at the bottom. Move that pin, we can go ahead and pull out that safety arm right there, push it back up in order to store it. On our entry door, we do have our friction controlled hinges, so you'll find some resistance on that door. That's to keep the wind from slamming that door shut or open, or keep the kids from doing the same thing. We have that magnetic latch there on the bottom. That next brings us to our solid steps right here that are very convenient. We can go ahead and lift them. You will have shocks that help lift this up, so it's not a hassle. Pick that up, glide it in there, and it will stop at the frame. We always want to make sure our entry door is fully open when we do that, so these brackets right here don't scratch up, tear up our screen door. We're ready to bring it down, grab that handle, and just bring it down. Now, one thing we want to keep in mind, after we have auto leveled our unit, we want to come over here and level our steps. We do that by these silver tabs right here. If we push them in, these legs will extend and retract. So generally you'd put it down in this position, find your level position, push that pin in, and you can extend or retract your legs to get it to that point. Now what we want is we want a flush threshold right here so our door will close properly and not have any gaps. And we also want to make sure that we're not having any hitting or anything like that with our frame of our steps as well as our frame of our door. If we have these steps adjusted too high, that frame will hit and cause some damage. Last thing we have is our 12-volt powered awning out here, as well as our 12-volt powered awning lights. Our awning is mainly a sunshade. It can resist some rain and stuff, but we'll want to make sure it doesn't happen is any water is allowed to puddle on that awning, otherwise it will collapse. We'll have light dew, AC condensation, light rain. I wouldn't leave it out for anything, any bad storms or wind storms, anything like that. That awning will collapse and break. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and pitch that awning to the front or the rear so that water can drain out. Your rear awning is going to be the exact same direction on this. Our awning arms on here can easily be pitched. Grab it, pull it down. Now our awning is pitched to the front, and it will go ahead and drain that water off. When we're ready to go ahead and roll our awning in, push it up, and we can roll that awning in. It would be an insurance claim if any damage happens to this due to misuse. So if you're leaving your campground for an extended period, you see a storm coming in, anything like that, roll that awning in just to be safe and sure. Right when we walk into our door on our kitchen cabinet right there, we open that door, we'll see our inverter prep. We talked about where that was in the front compartment. This would be for our controller to install right here and operate that. We also have our Compass Connect control center right here. If we downloaded that Compass Connect app, we can Bluetooth it to our phone and operate some of this stuff from our phone. We'll see our tank meter right here at the top. That's going to give us the levels for all of our system, our fresh tank, black tanks, as well as our gray tanks and our battery as well. We have our ceiling lights, pendant lights, accent lights, living room lights, slide lights, and we also have our awning and porch lights as well. We have our generator. If we did install that generator, we could operate it from here, and our 12-volt water pump that we use to pull from that fresh tank. Now that is an on-demand pump, so it's only going to operate when we have our faucets on, our shower, our kitchen sink, whatever. You're going to hear that pump vibrate and be sending water. When we turn that system off, that pump will go ahead and shut off within a few seconds after it's primed that system. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind is if we have all of our fixtures off, we hear that pump running, it's going to either mean that our fresh tank is empty, which we need to turn it off, that way it doesn't burn up the pump, or that we have a leak in our system, in which case we need to turn it off and investigate. Over to the right, we have our tank heater, 12-volt mats on our tanks. That way in extreme weather, we can kick those on and prevent them from freezing. We have our awning and slide out controls in and out for all of that stuff. These are all 12-volt components. We'll show you where the 12-volt fuse panel is here shortly. So below that control center up there, we have our 110 power and our 12-volt power right here. This is where all of our fuses and our breakers are. This is where we go if we have any troubleshooting, the first place we want to hit. Everything is labeled as far as what those 12-volt fuses operate or what our 110 breakers operate. We have our two GFCI breakers right here. We've talked about that GFCI protected outlet outside. We're also going to have in our wet locations on the interior and come over here and check there in the event that those aren't operating. Now, generally what trips those is either over amperage because we have too many griddles, coffee makers, maybe hair dryers, whatever on our system, and it has overloaded it and caused it to trip. It can also happen if those outlets get wet as well. So if you go to reset it and it trips again right off the bat, go unplug some of those items and make sure that those outlets aren't wet as well. Over to the left of our control center, you'll see another coax port for cable and satellite if we want to go ahead and set up a TV right here in the kitchen. First big item in our kitchen is our Norcold stainless steel residential refrigerator. We'll go over the operation of that now. All right, so once again, 12-volt powered. It's going to pull off of our battery or converter system. We want to go to our 12-volt fuse panel if we have any issues with the power on here. Pretty much all the diagnostics that you can really dig into on a unit like this. For now, we're going to go over how our controls work up top. All right, so just running through them, we have our power. Our plus and minus is going to control our temperature. This bottom tray right here we can see is blacked out. That is going to control our freezer temperature. If we push this one, that is going to control our double door refrigerator temperature. And then of course we have our night mode. So we'll go over the operation. To turn it off and on, we just hold our finger over that power button for a few seconds. It'll shut it off, and then we kick it back on. Same way, just hold that button down. Now, if we want to change our temperatures, of course, we need to select which box we're going to use. So this one's a freezer. We just hit that plus and minus, and we can adjust our temperature, 1 being cold and 5 being coldest. Same thing for our refrigerator option there. Now, our night mode is to conserve energy. It is assuming that you're not going to go in and out of your unit, and it has that option because it is a 12-volt fridge. So if we're boondocking, want to conserve our energy, kick that on, our compressor is going to run a little more efficiently. Now, we don't want to go in and out of our refrigerator because, once again, it's going to work more efficiently, so that means it's not going to cool down as much in there. So just keep that in mind when we use it. So very important things to note on our refrigerator is when we shut our system off, we need to defrost our freezer and wipe down our refrigerator. We're going to have some condensation in there. Go ahead and leave them open and cracked and let everything air out and dry out. If we don't do that, that water, ice, anything we left in there can melt, drip out, damage our wood components around our refrigerator. The manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of repair, so make sure we're defrosting and taking care of that fridge properly. We're also reducing opportunity for mold and mildew in that refrigerator as well. To the left of that, we have our residential Insignia 4-burner stovetop, as well as our 110 microwave up here. That microwave is going to have that hood range vent in here. Remember, the vent we talked about outside needs to be open for that air to ventilate out. And we have our 4-burner stove that's, of course, going to work off of gas. We need to make sure our propane is on. We pick which burner we want to use. We push it in, turn it to light, high, and we let it run until that system lights. Then we go ahead and turn it to our preferred temperature. And we also have our oven down below. Going to work very similar. We'll have a burner or two down there at the bottom. Choose our oven option, which is here in the middle. Turn it to that flame icon. We're going to hold it down until that burner lights down at the bottom. And then once it does, we go ahead and turn it to our temperature and that oven will light up. Now, a couple things to remember about our propane system is we can get air in that system. That happens either when we pulled our unit out from storage and we had those tanks off for a period of time, which is perfectly normal, or we changed out our tanks because we ran out of propane. You're going to end up with air in that system. So before you go operate things like your water heater or your furnace and stuff, to prevent those items from going into an error due to air in that lines, we just come over here and simply light our stove. Turn our tanks on, come over here, light the stove, let it burn for about 60 seconds, shut it off, and you should have gotten most, if not all, of that air out of the lines. This is a common occurrence that can happen with those systems, and a lot of customers just don't understand. It's a real simple fix, so if you ever have a problem with that, come over here, bleed the air out first. You're only going to have to do it that one time after you've either changed your tanks or brought it out of storage. Shouldn't happen again unless you have to change the tanks or you shut them off for a period of time. We have our island sink right here. It does have our cup washer. We go ahead and take a cup, push it down there. It's going to spray out. Our sink dispenser, and then we are also going to have that little waterfall option right here for rinse. We can go ahead and control that by turning this gold knob over to the side. We can control our flow with the next knob to the left of it. We want to use our actual faucet, we turn our gold knob the other way, and we'll also control temperature like that as well. Also in our kitchen, we're going to have our half bath with our toilet. We're going to talk a little bit more about toilet and black tank stuff when we get to our main bathroom. Next to that and our pantry, of course, we have our Coleman Mach thermostat that's going to control heat for the entire unit, as well as our air conditioner in the main kitchen area. We're also going to have a separate thermostat in our front living area as well as in our bedroom. Those are going to work the same, but they're only going to have the cool option. This one will have heat, and that will control the heat once again for the entire unit. Let's go over the operation of that now. All right, this is our thermostat for our AC system. When we click that button once, it'll give us the option for mode. Our first mode is cool. We hit that button again, and then we can choose between high or low auto or high and low all the time. So high and low all the time will keep that fan running constantly, even though that compressor is not on. Auto will shut that fan off whenever our compressor is turned off. Once we go ahead and initiate those two items, our AC will kick on, and we can choose our desired temperature by turning that knob right there. And the larger number on that screen is going to be our room temperature. So here we're set at 63 and our actual temperature is 83. Cool on is going to show you that that system is initiating, and that system will kick on. Our next option on there, if we hit that button twice again, is heat. When we go ahead and click it right there, it will bring on the heat, show our room temperature as well as our set to temperature. Our heat is only going to come out of the lower areas. It's not going to come out of that rooftop AC. If you have air blowing out of that rooftop area, then we want to make sure that we don't have the fan on high or low on that cool option. So we would go back to our cool, and we would check right here and make sure it's on auto. Our last option on here is cool and heat. In this case, we can go ahead and do the same thing, choose our fan options, just have a set temp in between the furnace and the AC. It will keep that temperature set at that 72-degree mark. Now, in order to turn that system completely off, click it twice again and we can go to off. Just before we enter our bedroom, we'll notice down here at the bottom we have our LP detector. That's going to notify us of any cautious LP gas in our unit and alarm us that we need to get out. We need to test that alarm before we go camping, make sure that audible alarm is working. We'll notice a little green light on there. It notifies us and lets us know that it is powered on and that it is hardwired into our 12-volt battery system. It's also going to notify you of CO levels on there as well, so CO and LP on that alarm. It is going to have an expiration date either printed on the front or the back of it as well. We need to change that out when that time comes. Our smoke detectors in our unit, powered by 9-volt batteries, are also going to have that audible alarm. Need to go ahead and test that, and of course make sure that battery is working as well. Not too much to go over in our bedroom. Of course, we do have another AC system right here in the rear, and then we also have our slide out, controlled by our slide out buttons there right by the entry door, and of course we're going to have that thermostat for that rear AC as well. Over to the passenger side of our bedroom, we do have more entertainment as well as a coax plate for satellite cable and antenna up there. We have some hidden storage in here along with our other closets to go ahead and store our goods. Now, our bathroom is going to be pretty cut and dry. We do have a latch right here on our shower to go ahead and keep our doors from sliding around while we're traveling. Our shower is a spa shower. We've got hot and cold obviously in there, and we also have a vent in here as well. It's suggested that you use that vent whenever you take a shower. That way we'll go ahead and ventilate any heat and humidity in here whenever we're doing that to reduce opportunity for mold and mildew. In the closet next to our shower, we are prepped for a washer dryer system with our drain tube, our hot and cold if we want to upgrade to that. We have our toilet in our rear bathroom too. That once again is going to lead to our black tank. Now, we're only a few things that we're putting in our toilet sewage wise. We're putting number 1 and number 2, our liquids and solids in there, and then we're also putting RV toilet paper only so it degrades properly in that tank, and then we're also putting our chemicals to help that degrade process. For our toilet, number 1 sewer, right, where it's just liquids, we're going to go ahead and put that liquid in there. We're going to hit this pedal and flush our system. Now, solids are number 2. We're going to put that in there. Of course, we have toilet paper and all that. We want to fill this bowl about half to 3/4 of the way. That way we have enough water to flush those solids all the way down to our tank, and we're not having any clogging issues. In order to do that, we barely push this pedal down. It will go ahead and activate that system, and the water will begin to fill the bowl. We just need to watch that lever down at the bottom and make sure that it's still closed while that water is emitting, so it'll actually fill up. Last thing we had to go over in here is our Furrion tankless water heater. In our bathroom, we'll see our Furrion tankless control center. Pretty simple. We have our power on, off and on, kick it on. That's going to be our set point for our water. We can change that by hitting our up and down buttons right there. Our indicators right here, power, Fahrenheit, Celsius. If we want to change one to the other, we hit that bottom right button, and flame. Flame is only going to kick on whenever we turn that hot water on, indicating that system is working. And once again, on demand, it'll only come on whenever we have that hot water on. Right by our entry steps into the living room, we have our IntelliVac system. We go ahead and open this up. We can put the hose in there and vacuum around our unit. For sweeping, we go ahead and put that dust pile right here, kick that up. We can sweep the stuff into there, and it'll go into our vacuum system. In our living room area, we have our Rockford Fosgate radio system. Control our indoor and outdoor radio speakers. We have our TV lift up and down, 12-volt powered. We're also going to have our antenna boost right back here. Our antenna boost is for when we want to use that antenna, searching for local channels on our TV. Kick that antenna boost on so it'll help boost and pick up more channels in your area. Now, when we have a cable hook up there at the campground, we want to turn that antenna boost off. It's indicated by the little light on there. You have a push button. Push that button, turn that light off and on for that boost. Down below that, we have our 110 powered fireplace for electric heat. If we want to use that, we'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these 2 buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. Your sofas in your slide out will both fold out into beds for more sleeping space, and our recliner here does have electric reclining. Now in our front living space, we do have another thermostat that's going to control this front AC, and all of your ACs are going to have this same ceiling assembly up here. All of them have filters right here on each side. We go ahead and pull those 2 tabs, drop that filter out. We need to change or clean those every so often. That way we're not restricting air to our AC. We're also going to have 2 other vents on here. These vents, if we open them up, they're called quick dumps. It's going to force air just out of those vents. We can quickly cool off this area. If we want air to flow through our ceiling ducts right there throughout our unit, we go ahead and close those off, and now the air is forced out of our vents right here.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.